Hello, my name is Kristien Rombouts, and I'm going to talk to you today about the potential of technological innovation for organizations in the social domain. But let me first introduce myself. I work at RVO Society. RVO Society is a science educator. We try to motivate children and young people for science, technology, and engineering. And we always do that by emphasizing the societal role of science, technology, and engineering. Because in all big challenges of the 21st century, you will need engineers, you will need scientists, you will need computer scientists. Think, for instance, about climate change, but also about aging, and also about the growing need to include all people in our society. My job at RVO Society is to stimulate technological innovation for social profit organizations, for organizations in the social domain. Since more than 10 years, we are coordinating the SERA Award program. SERA Award is a program where we ask organizations in the social domain what technological problems they see in their organizations. And then we will try to find students who will do this as part of their master thesis or wherever it fits in their educational program. So this demand-driven approach is very specific and something I really like about our program. I've been talking a lot about an organization in the social domain, but what do we mean by that? Well, many definitions are possible, of course, but this is the one we use. It is an organization which has as mission an explicit social or societal mission, either because their product or service is explicitly social or societal, they work with people with disabilities, they work with aging people, or because their production process is either social or societal. They, for instance, provide employment for people with a long distance to the labor market. The second aspect is also that these are organizations that pay attention to people, planet, and profit, not just profit. So for us, that's the definition we work with. We prompt the organizations in the social domain twice a year for requests, needs, technological challenges they see in their organization. And I can assure you that these organizations have many ideas, many creative ideas. They just simply don't have the right people to do this. Looking at the ideas they propose to us, we can make a big distinction in two types of projects. At the one hand, you have the projects that are focusing on the end user, projects who will try to improve the quality of life of vulnerable target groups in our society. And on the other hand, you have projects who will try to use technology to empower, to strengthen these social organizations themselves. But let me give you some examples, because that's, of course, the interesting part. Approximately 60% of the project requests we receive are oriented towards end users, and many of them are formulated by organizations that work for people with disabilities. So we obviously come now in the domain of assistive technology. A very famous user, of course, of assistive technology is obviously Stephen Hawking. You might know that Stephen Hawking, when he lost his speech at first, he used a communication device that he controlled with his hands. But at this moment, he controls his communication device with his muscles in his cheek. So think about the technology involved there and how this improves his quality of life. I would also like to quote a very nice lady, very passionate lady who works at Windekind. Windekind is a school for special needs children. At Windekind, they are mainly there because of their physical disabilities, but they often have other impairments as well. And this lady has been working with these children for more than 30 years. And she tells us what I have seen during these years, what technology has made possible for our children, how it has made it possible for our children to live independently, to find a place for themselves in society, for their self-esteem. That is really wondrous. And I think all engineers, all computer scientists, everybody who has participated in that, that is really a big achievement. I want to stress to you also that this is a growing domain. Our society is aging, and with age do come age-induced impairments. So there will be a growing market for assistive technology. We have, for instance, at this moment, students working on a non-stigmatizing, aesthetical drinking solution for people with tremor, Parkinson's disease, for instance. They're really working very well, and we do hope they will introduce their invention to the market. Technology also has enormous potential to strengthen and to empower the organizations working in the social domain, to give them the opportunities to give better service to their target groups and clients. Let me tell you, for instance, about a project for the Flemish suicide hotline, a project being called Human Warmth Online. The Flemish suicide hotline works with volunteers, and these volunteers answer telephone calls, emails, they chat with people struggling with suicidal thoughts. Obviously, that is very demanding volunteer work. And for the Center of Suicide Prevention, it is very important to support their volunteers, and for this, their intranet is an important tool. Because let me remind you, these volunteers work at their homes, thanks to technology. And so the need for these volunteers to be supported, to support each other, is enormous, and this intranet is an important tool there. And what is important also, that while developing this intranet, she took great care in making sure that she used shareware and freeware components, because like many organizations in this domain, the Center to Prevent Suicide does not have large budgets for technology. Another part was creating an online e-learning module. In all countries, I assume, you have many online communities where the moderators do sometimes see signals that indicate suicidal thoughts, and they do not always know how to react. So the Center for Suicide Prevention wanted to create an online short e-learning module for these moderators, so that they have at least some way of how to react when they see these kind of messages appear. A very different example is the project request of Ergasia and Axia called Looking for Air and Light. Ergasia and Axia are two Antwerp-based organizations that work with and for people with autism spectrum disorder. Ergasia wants to create employment for people with above or normal intellectual disabilities with autism spectrum disorder, and Axio wants to create meaningful activities and work for these people. A few years ago, these organizations were very happy to be able to purchase a building, which was basically just a closed hall with no windows. And at first, the first thing they did was install a vent in the ceiling so that they would have light. But then it would get very hot in the summer, so they installed a ventilation system. But this ventilation system makes a lot of noise. Now you have to know that people with autism spectrum disorder are very sensible to sensory input. So these organizations are really struggling and are really looking for flexible solutions for creating quiet workplaces where their target people can work. I do hope I gave you some insights, some inspiration about where engineers and technology can play a role in society and can have an impact on people's lives and can contribute to a society where everybody can have a good and meaningful life. And thank you very much for watching.